It's the first week of February 2026, and for us this is when we make the first sowings of the year. We put out a video a couple of weeks ago on which seeds we sow in February. In that video we show you all the seeds we sow in February, and almost all of those seeds we sow now. It's the 6th of February today, I think it's the 6th or the 7th, with the exception of things like potatoes and tomatoes, which we sow at the end of the month. All the other seeds we sow now, and that is because February is such a great month for daylight. Daylight's starting to increase now. It's getting light in the morning now. It's daylight at 7:30 in the morning now, and it's getting dark at around about 5 o'clock or even just after. Compare that to Christmas when it was getting dark at like 4:45. This is the UK. So if we were to sow now in the first week of February, what we're hoping for are for these seedlings to have germinated and to become small seedlings by the end of the month. And then we're going into March with seedlings that are growing in an environment where there's growing daylight. So that stops them getting leggy and weak. That's the plan. So what are we sowing today? Well, lots of things actually, but for this video we're going to be sowing broad beans. Well, they're not actually broad beans, these are called field beans, but they're very similar. And peas. So these two varieties are called telephone pea, and telephone pea can grow really tall. We're talking like 10 feet if you let it. You can always snip it at the top to stop it growing that tall. So Vespa is very similar to a broad bean. So Vespa is what's called a field bean. And from what I understand, the main difference is that the yield on the Vespa is huge compared to broad beans, but the pods are slightly smaller and the beans are slightly smaller, but overall you get more. So all I'm doing here is, these are the charged Dowding cell trays. We bought, in the set that we bought, there was this big one here, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 by 6, so this is a 60. This is 1 2 3 4 5 times 6, so this is 30, and then we get 2 smaller ones as well. What I like about these cell trays is there's a few things actually, but the holes, when it's time to pop these on, you can just push your finger up and it comes out, as opposed to the more flimsy ones where they're sort of cracking and splitting. What else do I like? The big holes in the bottom, they allow for great drainage. When you're dealing with things like peas and broad beans, you don't want them sitting in water. That can rot them. So all I've done here is filled this cell tray. I haven't filled it quite full because these are going to be peas and these are going to be field beans. So what else are we going to be sowing over the weekend? Lettuce, cauliflower, cabbage, beetroot, radish, turnip, chilies. They're going to need a bit of warmth, but chilies. Did I say beetroot? I'm sure I've missed a couple out. Brussels. But as I say, we put out a video a couple of weeks ago on everything that we sow. I'll put the link in the description if you want to check that out. So this compost is already quite moist, so there's no real need to water it in. Having said that, the drainage holes are so big, there's no danger in doing that. So shall we start with peas first? This compost I'm using, by the way, is just called Growshaw, and we've been buying it for the last few years and we've always found it very reliable. These peas are home saved from last year's harvest. We just let the peas go dry on the plant. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in 2 per cell. I think we probably could get away with 3, but I'm just going to go with 2. Peas can grow in clumps quite happily. 2s or 3s will be absolutely fine. You could also grow them individually, no problem there. And so how many do we want here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We want 30 of these peas. We are currently in the middle of making a video on overwintering peas. Now they were sown in October, and we've never actually successfully grown peas over winter. They've always been frost damaged, even though the variety that we grow is called Meteor, which is supposed to be the hardiest overwintering variety that you can buy. However, this year, every time we've had a frost, we've taken them home just for that period while we've had the frost, and so far so good. As we'll see shortly, we'll go into the greenhouse, which is where they're currently living. They're still looking okay. So they've been growing since October. So the October sown peas will hopefully give us a harvest in May. And there aren't many crops that you can harvest in May, so to have something harvestable in May, looking forward to that. But as I say, we've never successfully done it due to losing them to frost. So this could be the first year, fingers crossed, that it all works. So these ones I'm sowing now are called telephone pea, and they'll grow up a trellis to become quite tall. The overwintering pea are called Meteor, and they make short, compact plants, which is perfect for the winter weather, the wind, etc. So I think this is about done now. 30 sown just here. So the idea with the Meteor peas, the overwintering peas, is that when we harvest them, they're for eating. These telephone pea we'll be harvesting in probably first week of July, I think is usually the case. And we don't harvest these for eating straight away. We harvest these to freeze, and we eat them over winter. So all I'm doing here is I haven't made an indent or anything. I've just put 2 peas on top of the cells, and I'm just, with my thumb now, I'm just pushing them in. Compost is quite springy. It's not like soil, which will probably, you make an indent and the indent stays there. With compost, it tends to spring back up. So I'm pushing, and as I'm pushing this down, I can see water coming up from the compost. So the compost is already quite moist. So that's looking pretty good, and I've already put my label in. Let's move on to the field beans. These, as I say, are called Vespa, and these are also home saved. Now with field beans, as is the case with broad beans, they can split underground, so one seed can make 2 plants. So you end up getting 2 stems. And that's the opposite of multi-sowing the peas, as we've just done, where we hope that 2 peas will grow together. In the case of field beans and broad beans, we just sow one, and you can see that the beans themselves are much smaller than broad beans. Broad beans are twice the size of these, or 3 times. So how many have we got here? 3 times 6, we've got 18 here. And again, with these field beans, these should crop the same time as the peas, first week in July. We have also overwintered some broad beans. They were sown in November. For us, broad beans are the last sowing of the year. In November, we do no more sowings until now. And all I'm doing here is just covering the peas and the beans with a layer of compost. And I think as a general rule, did they say that the thickness of the compost on top should be the same as the thickness of the seed, I think that's probably about right. But I mean, you just need to cover them up. Now what we're going to find, as these peas and beans germinate, the seedling that they make is going to push up this layer of compost. So this layer of compost will come up, and you will be able to see the peas and the beans sort of in the cell with the seedling on top of them. But that's not a problem, as we're going to pop these on anyway into bigger pots in, say, a month's time or so. Could also be possible to plant them straight out. All depends on the weather, how cold it is. It's been very, very cold here in the UK, very cold. They keep threatening snow. For the last, we did have snow about 3 weeks ago, quite a heavy snowfall, and since then they've always forecast more snow for the next week, but it's never happened, not yet. But once again, I've just checked the forecast, and for next week they have forecast 1 day of snow, so we'll see. So my labels are already in. I'm just going to tamp that down. So these peas and broad beans could probably live in an unheated greenhouse. They'll germinate just fine, they'll grow on just fine. They are cool weather crops, but just to give them extra bit of oomph at the start, we're going to take them home, and they're just going to live anywhere at home, really, in the kitchen, on the windowsill. Don't need to give them warmth, don't need a heat mat or anything like that, but just room temperature will just help them to germinate just a couple of days sooner than if we were to leave them in an unheated greenhouse. So here in the greenhouse we have the broad beans and the overwintering peas. Broad beans were sown, they were the last sowing in November, and the peas were sown in October. So these are of a variety called Meteor peas, and they were sown in October. They were sown into cell trays, just as you've seen us sow the peas just a minute ago. They were popped out and they were potted on into these slightly bigger pots. They haven't been potted on since. As I mentioned just before, we've never successfully grown overwintering peas. They've got to this stage, or maybe just before this stage, and then they have died off. So I'm not sure if this is to be expected. Drop me a comment, let me know if you think this is normal. But at the bottom of the plant, you can see how we've multi-sowed these as well, in the same way as we've just showed you. There's 3 per clump in this case with the Meteor peas, and the very bottom leaves are starting to turn brown. Is this normal? The rest of the pea looks pretty healthy and strong, actually, but I think we can just take these off. They're not giving anything to the plant anymore. I'm not necessarily seeing any mold or any other problems with them. Is this normal? It looks all right. And what about the root ball? So I think this is a stage now where it could really be doing with potting on again, or better still, plant out. And if the weather wasn't, the forecast is quite cold next week, it's going to be sub-zero again. That's what they're forecasting, subject to change, as it has been these last few weeks. They've changed their mind at the last minute. But I would like to get these out as soon as possible. These should crop in May, so a whole month or more before the telephone peas that we've just sown. So these peas will be for eating in May. And at the back here, as I've just mentioned, broad beans were sown in November. They're growing on quite healthy. Again, some of these leaves are looking, I think that's humidity, and just going quite moldy. This as well, is it a combination of frost damage? Another one just here. I think we can take these off. It's not contributing to the plant. Yeah, there's a few all the way down. I think in general they're looking quite healthy. These, again, we'd like to plant these out as soon as possible for an early harvest. So the Vespa that you've just seen will probably crop in, let's say, the first week of July. And these should be cropping at the same time as the Meteor peas in May. So two great options if you want an early harvest. You just have to remember to sow sort of October, November time. But with regards to the peas and the broad beans, the field beans that we've sown today, we'll be updating you in a couple of weeks.